Perfect. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Back to Basics. I'm Dr. Vivian Asamoah, functional gastroenterologist here in Katy, Texas. And today we are so lucky to have a wonderful guest with us, someone who is well versed in everything that is diet, nutrition, and lifestyle medicine. And that is Dr. Lola Ashaye with In Touch Primary Practice in Sugarland. Dr. Ashaye, I will let you introduce yourself to the family.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm Dr. Lola Ashaye. I'm a primary care physician. I'm board certified in lifestyle medicine and family medicine. And I am the owner of In Touch Primary Care, which is a concierge like practice in Sugarland, and where we see people with or without health insurance, and so that they can access quality care under a membership model. And I'm passionate about wellness, weight management, preventative care. And I truly believe that many health conditions can be prevented or even reversed with easy access to quality health care.
That is fantastic, Dr. Ashaye. Prevention, I think, is what's going to change the future of chronic illness, right? If we can prevent it, then we don't have to live chronically with disease and take so many medications. So we thank you for what you're doing, and we thank you for what you're bringing to the community. Today, we want to touch on a topic that I know is very important as you work with prevention of disease in patients, and that is high cholesterol. And so we have titled today's conversation Lipid Panel and Diet Separating Fact from Fiction. And I thought you'd be the best person to discuss this with the family because a lot of people really have questions about, you know, what should I eat when I have cholesterol issues? Do I have to take a medication? Is there something natural that my cousin's sister said I could take that would help me? And what am I preventing? Because, of course, when you have cholesterol issues, for the most part, doc, you don't feel it, right? You don't know until you get tested. So, would really like to start off with just some of the basics. And my first question to you is what exactly is a cholesterol or lipid panel? And when do we start testing our patients?
Okay, yes, that's a great question. So, a full lipid panel includes the LDL, that's the low density lipoprotein, HDL, the high density lipoprotein, and triglyceride is often added. But the LDL is known as the bad cholesterol. That's what a lot of people know as bad cholesterol. And that one contributes to plaque buildup in the arteries. So, because of it increases plaque in the arteries, it increases risk of heart disease, stroke, and other health problems. The good cholesterol, which is the HDL cholesterol, actually helps get rid of the bad cholesterol by carrying it to the liver, and then it gets removed from the body as waste. So the good cholesterol, people with high good cholesterol have a lower risk of heart disease, strokes, and other health problems. And then sometimes people will see a non-HDL component in their lab, and that's basically just a calculated total cholesterol minus the HDL, and that gives you that number. And then the triglycerides, that's the other one that usually gets measured along with cholesterol. It's actually not a cholesterol, it's a different type of fat, but it is helpful because it does have some impact on cardiovascular health. And most of the time, the most common indication for testing a lipid panel is to help to determine your risk of heart disease. So, with all those components I measured, we can calculate ratios and predict your risk of, heart disease now and in the future.
Excellent. So it's important when people mention their cholesterol that they're really talking about the lipid panel because there are many different measurements in that lipid panel that explain what's going on in terms of heart disease, right? The good cholesterol, the HDL, the
Right.
LDL. Okay, excellent. Okay, very good. So there's this misconception that all cholesterol is bad. And you've
Mm.
just explained the difference between the HDL and LDL, right? Tell us a little bit about the triglycerides, which you said are not actually cholesterol. What are they? And when they're high, what could that mean for a patient?
Yeah, absolutely. So the triglyceride is a different type of fat. It's not actually cholesterol, but because it can impact cardiovascular health, it's measured along with cholesterol, which can also impact cardiovascular health. Triglycerides can be easily affected by timing of when you eat, though. So that's the one that we, want you to fast for actually. So when you're asked to fast prior to lipid panel, it's often because of the triglycerides, because when the triglyceride is abnormal, it can impact the calculated LDL, HDL, and other values that we look at. And the other thing about triglycerides is it can lead to things like when they're very high, like pancreatitis, for
Mhm.
instance, with high triglycerides. And so there are other things that it can cause, and that's why it's good to know what those levels are.
So what I hear you saying, Doc, is the triglyceride is easily modifiable, right? It's one that's easily modifiable by diet. And what about exercise? Is there anything else that affects anything in the lipid panel fairly quickly?
Yes, so diet you mentioned already is huge in how it affects the lipid panel. And I know when we talk about diet, we talk particularly about fats when it comes to cholesterol and the lipid panel in general. And that's because the type of fat we ingest really affects what happens with our cholesterol levels. So there are three main types of fats, right, that we talk about. We talk about the saturated fat, the unsaturated fats, and then we have trans fat. So saturated fat is mainly found in animal products. So we have like meats and dairy, and those ones raise bad cholesterol and good cholesterol actually, but
Mhm.
it raises bad cholesterol more. So we want to try to avoid that one. The unsaturated fats, there are two types in that category, the monounsaturated and then the polyunsaturated fats. And so the monounsaturated fats you can get in both animal products, but they have a lot of plant sources, or we have a lot of plant sources of monounsaturated fats as well. And so monounsaturated fats are great because they lower bad cholesterol and they raise good cholesterol. So they do what we want to happen.
Plant fats, right? That's what
Plant
we're talking
fats,
about, the
the
mono.
ones that the monounsaturated fats that come from plants like avocados, nuts, seeds, plant oils, things like that. And then we have the polyunsaturated fats, which a lot of people are familiar with because of the omega-3. Omega-3 fatty acids are in that category. And omega-6 fatty acids are also in that category. But examples like flaxseed, chia seeds, fish, are omega-3 fatty acids, and then you have corn, peanuts, soybeans for omega-6 fatty acids. And those lower triglyceride levels. And so the polyunsaturated fats in general lower triglyceride levels, while the omega-6 fatty acids actually lower bad cholesterol and good cholesterol. So the basic idea, though, and then we have the trans fat, which we should just avoid because it raises bad cholesterol and lowers good cholesterol. So the basic idea is if we were to replace saturated fats with unsaturated fats from plant sources mainly and avoid trans fats, then we're able to really help our cholesterol levels because we'll be raising the good cholesterol and lowering the bad cholesterol.
Wow. Okay. So there's something really important that you said about the omegas, right? The omega 3s and the omega 6. It seems like they need to be in a certain ratio or balance to positively impact the lipid panel, right? The effects that they have on HDL and LDL. Tell us about that one more time so that people really understand when they're going for omega rich foods, which ones are going to be more beneficial in terms of reducing cardiovascular risks versus others.
Right, absolutely. So the omega-3 fatty acids are the ones that can help, and omega-6 fatty acids, actually, both of them help lower triglyceride levels. So that's helpful for those that have high triglycerides to concentrate on getting adequate amounts of just polyunsaturated fats in general. However, if for people that are working on lowering their bad cholesterol, primarily, they're actually better off with monounsaturated fats from plant sources because
Yes.
that one lowers bad cholesterol and raises good cholesterol, which helps to lower bad cholesterol, right? So, people that have problems with their cholesterol, their bad cholesterol being high, want to focus on the monounsaturated fat. Now, the omega 6 fatty acids lower bad cholesterol as well and raise good cholesterol. Um, However, because of possibly other factors that I think there's still some debate about how good those are for us for other
Hmm.
reasons. So that's why we don't focus as much on that one as we do on the omega-3 fatty acids and then the monounsaturated fats, because research has shown over and over again that those ones are definitely healthy and good for us long term.
So if someone is going to the store to buy plant-based fats, what are the top three that you would recommend?
Okay, so I'll recommend avocados, flaxseed, and then probably chia. Well, it depends. No, not a lot of people like fish. I was going to say fish,
Okay,
but you
okay. Yeah,
so maybe some people don't like it, so they can do another seed like a chia seed or
like a
something.
chia. But
And then,
if you were going to go for fish,
mhm.
are there certain types of fish that have higher fat concentrations? Meaning, are there fish that actually have some good fat and some bad fat? And which types of fish would you recommend?
Yeah, so you want to go with the fatty fish. So,
Mhm.
like with the salmon, mackerel, tuna, those types of fish tend to have a higher concentration of the nutrients that we're looking for. So,
Mhm.
um, the fatty fish, like you said, exactly right. So, those ones are the ones that come to mind immediately that are safe for you to start to go to.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. So avocado, chia seeds, and flaxseed is what
Yeah,
we should go for. And when you are buying oil, right, when you're just buying oil to use to cook, there's a lot of debate as to which one is best, especially
right.
when you have lipid panel issues or cholesterol issues, as we say. What do you use, Dr. Shay? What do you
So
use?
my preference is olive oil, and that's based on the research that that's the one that over and over again has shown to have the greatest health benefits. Um, in general, oils are fatty, so you want to limit as much, the oil that you use. So even if it's olive oil, that doesn't mean that you're supposed to be pouring, half a cup into the meal that you cook in, right? So you still want to be careful about the amount of oil that you're using, especially if you're having trouble cholesterol. It's
Mhm.
supposed to be more of something that you add just a little bit on of, not something that you just, pour.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, but if you're going to use oil, then olive oil will be my preferred choice.
As an oil that you're pouring, what about an oil that you're cooking at high point temperature?
So, I would use it for both for use it even when for cooking as well. You can use olive oil to cook as well, and I use it for both cooking and to as a garnish. So regardless
Mhm.
of how you use an oil, I use it
Mhm.
for both.
Okay. I mean, I have heard that olive oil is not a good high smoke point oil. It does
Mhm,
break down and leave a lot of metabolites that can be toxic to the body. So, an oil that probably is plant based that may be helpful for high smoke, like for high cooking temperatures, would be avocado oil. It
mhm,
is a little bit expensive, but it's the right type of oil. Plus, it fries well. It deep fries well and doesn't leave a lot of breakdown
mhm.
metabolites. Yeah,
Oh, that's
in the
good to
system.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so avocado, I know definitely a great source in general. So I'm not surprised that, its oils are good as well.
Let's jump into exercise really quick because we've talked a lot about food and you've shared a lot of great information. Now everybody kind of knows what to look out for in terms of plant-based oils, plant-based foods, in terms of fish options as well. But let's talk a little bit about exercise and how exercise may or may not impact that lipid panel and cholesterol in general?
Yeah, so exercise is another really important uh, activity, or physical activity in general, actually, is what I like to say. Movement can really
Mm-hmm.
help with cholesterol. And a lot of times people complicate movement because they're looking for that 1 hour in the gym, or,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
really, it's really just about getting yourself up and moving as much as possible, taking those little breaks in your day to
Mm-hmm.
and walk instead of sitting,
Mm-hmm.
can make a big difference. I mean, research shows even 10 minutes of physical activity can help to do many different things in your body, including um, physical activity in general, for sure, has been known to lower your
That's
cholesterol.
great. We all have time for 10 minutes. So
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah.
exactly. So it's really doesn't have to be a whole production. And I think that's what stops a lot of people from doing it, because they're thinking about how much they need to do. So just start where you are with just little steps. If you used to sit down when you're on the phone, get up and walk around while you're on the phone, you know. And if you used to just stand there while you're waiting for your tea or your coffee to get to be ready, do some, squats, do do
That's
something.
right. Do some, you may squat or you won't be able to come back up, but you can,
If you can.
you can
But
try.
move, just move your
Yeah.
arms, move your legs. Try to just don't just waste that time that you're standing there. So I think just being intentional about moving physically does make a difference. And you start where you are, and over time you do more and more. Ideally, we want to get to 150 minutes a week.
Okay.
Um, that's where we want to get. But I always, don't start there if you are not exercising already. Just start with the 10 minutes and then increase your goal over time.
Excellent. So start slow and then slowly keep pacing yourself upwards. That's awesome, Doc.
Absolutely.
So because we are talking about prevention and because you're a lifestyle and prevention doc, right? Um, what when would you start checking lipid panels? Like what should we advise our patients? At what age is it best? And then how often should we check?
Yeah. So children can be checked as early as 10 if they have risk factors. So it just depends on the child. In terms of adults, though, we want in your adult life starting at 18, you probably should get a check, because a lot of children do not get checked. So
Mm,
get a baseline lipid profile, because some people have genetic predisposition to high lipids and they don't know. And so once we get a baseline, if it's normal, you can space it out for a while, about every 3 to 5 years, depending on, what the values show. And then
mhm.
starting at age 35, 40, again, we start checking more consistently. And
Okay.
then depending how often we check after that will depend on several things. It's a little harder to say after 40, because if you have high blood pressure by then, or if you had diabetes by then, then it changes how often we'll check.
I see. Doc, you've shared a wealth of information. One last question, because of some more things you shared in the last line. You said some people have risk factors, and you mentioned genetics. Are there other risk factors based on your weight, your other lifestyle habits, or even your like your race?
Yes, absolutely. So for people that smoke,
Okay,
that would be a huge one. So if you do smoke, just forget everything else. Just let's work on
on
quitting
that.
smoking
Okay,
first.
okay,
Okay. And then we could talk about the nutrition and all, because that will have the greatest impact on your health. So that is a huge risk factor, right?
yes.
And the other thing I mentioned to people, cholesterol is not the end goal. It's what it causes that we're worried about, which is heart
Mm-hmm.
disease, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all the other things that increase our risk for heart disease, like having diabetes and have high blood pressure, a family history of heart disease, and all those things, race too, Black, Hispanic race can increase your risk, or has been associated anyway. Um, so those things do count as things that we're worried about when we are looking at someone with high cholesterol, because we know that all those things together increases your risk of heart disease, which is really what we're worried about, right? So
Mhm.
having high cholesterol in of itself is not really the main issue. The main
It's a
issue,
drop in the bucket of
right?
everything else that you
How
have to
does it
work on,
impact
right?
your heart?
Yes. Yeah. To protect your heart. This was
Right.
a great conversation, Doc. Thank you so much. We've learned a ton from you. I think there are lots of little tips that we can use on a daily basis. And one thing I really picked up on was actually test early, right? You want to test kids if you have kids, if you're 18 and never had blood work. And then, depending on what they find, go to the official recommended age of 35. And depends on your risk factors. So at least if you start early, you kind of know where you are, because from 18 to 35, you can make a lot of changes.
Right.
You can make a
Exactly.
lot of changes.
You have
Yeah.
to check. You have to check. You won't know if you don't check.
So, Doc, where can patients find you? Because a lot of my patients say, I'm looking for a new doctor. And I always say, a new doctor is like gold, right? A primary care doctor, a great primary care doctor is amazing, because you
Mhm.
all do so much for patients. And I'm a strong believer in DPC doctors, because they take time, they investigate, they're very thorough. They just don't refer willy nilly. They're very careful about their referral process. I mean, and they know their patients. When I talk to a
Mhm.
DPC doc, I'm like, remember that patient you sent to me? And they're like, oh, Barbara, her children are this, and she has this, and she lives across this, and she loves sewing, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, how do you remember your patients so well? But this is a trend I've seen in all DPC docs, because they're so involved. So I am sure patients would love to connect with you. Where can they find you? How can they connect?
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. It's a pleasure to talk with you, and you're an amazing doctor as well. So I want to make sure that our audience knows that. Like, if you're watching this and you're not seeing Dr. Vivian, you want to make sure that you see her if you need a gastroenterologist. So just wanted to say that first.
Mm. Thank
But
you.
I can be found in Sugarland. My practice is In Touch Primary Care, and you can go on my website, www.intouchprimarycare.com, and
Okay.
all our contact information is on there, including our social media handles, our phone number, our emails, everything. So that's the best way to contact us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Doc, for what you do. And everyone, this was another episode of Back to Basics, dispelling the myths about, diet and lipid panel. And I hope you guys got some great information. Thanks for coming on, Dr. Lola.
Thank you, Dr. Vivian.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
This is great. Let me end record. It